Trials of Osiris. The pinnacle PvP experience launched in Destiny 1 Year 1. It became Trials of the Nine at D2's launch, and then Trials of Osiris again after a year's hiatus. The mode, regardless of name, has always been a gate-kept activity within Destiny. There were challenges to entry with this mode. You required a preformed team, which for a predominantly solo player such as myself, even with a clan around me, was difficult to achieve. Friends in different time zones, different work patterns and shifts, different life responsibilities. Forming a team was an effort in itself and should have produced loot just from achieving that for the everyday player. Jokes aside, I always thought that a 3v3 elimination game mode that everyone knew how to play, with it also being a core Crucible mode in the same game, could be match-made if there was heavy skill-based matchmaking involved. If I dared to voice this thought on forums or Reddit and the like, however, I would always be met with the same sort of response. Just get good, scrub. It's not for you anyway. Your ELO is dead low anyway. F off, you're useless, no one wants to play with you. To, paraphrase but a few of the responses. On the rare occasion that I was allowed to join an LFG group, the toxicity was so intense from both teammates and opposition players that I never wanted to touch that game mode again. Considering some of the best looking and performing loot came from there, I'm looking at you, Doctrine of Passing and the Kitty Cat Cloak, this put me at a massive disadvantage in other LFG areas and all aspects of PvP, especially the monthly Iron Banner, where I had neither the weaponry nor light level to compete. On the very rare occasions that I did get to play with friends, the population of the game mode was so low and the skill level of those left playing the mode so high that rewards that only dropped at 3, 5 and 7 wins were non-existent due to constantly getting stomped, giving us a very demoralising experience. This continued into D2 and the Trials of the Nine, and by the time that retired and Trials of Osiris returned, I just had no desire to play, knowing the sort of person I'd be up against. But with Season 15, aka Season of the Lost, Bungie made some wholesale changes to Trials. Matchmaking was added for a start, allowing solo players to queue up and play whenever they were available. Loot drops were drastically changed, as were the passage cards, meaning losses no longer required you to reset to 0. You can now lose 16 games on the trot, for example, but as long as you get 7 wins at some point through a weekend, you're getting pinnacle rewards. The faction ranking system from Crucible, Gambit and Vanguard has been added to Saint 14 now, meaning even just playing will give you loot along the way, and bounties allow progression when maybe your skill does not. After you achieve 7 wins, end of match loot drops activate in the form of Trials engrams, and you can focus these with Saint for specific loot, though the cost is fairly high compared to other areas of the game. The population has been booming, with over 1 million different accounts playing the game mode during its first weekend back, and over 4 million games being played. But the big question is, are the changes actually any good, and are they any good for a solo player? Well, let me give you my thoughts on my experience. To give some context, I'm not a good PvP player. Right now, my combat efficiency or kill-death assist ratio is just over 1. It's 1.12 at the precise moment in time that I'm writing this script, and has likely changed by the time that you're watching this. At the absolute best, this ratio makes me bang average. Most days, I find I'm propping up the leaderboard. I didn't therefore go into the game expecting to go flawless. I didn't even expect to win, to be honest, knowing that skill-based matchmaking isn't a thing in Trials. Instead, matchmaking is ping followed by card progress that determine who you match against. As it transpired, the matchmaking allowed me to win the first 4 games that I played. There were no cakewalks these matches. None of us were great, but things were close, and I actually found that really fun. But then, things started to take a different turn. At 4 wins on my card, I started facing 3 stacks as a solo player. No matter how good or bad you are, a full team versus randomers is always going to end one way. A demolition of the random team by the preformed one. And this situation persisted for 9 games straight. In those 9 games, I had multiple people leave immediately upon noticing they were facing a 3-stack, and their space didn't get backfilled. I had one match where it was literally me versus a 3-stack as the other 2 people left. In the one game of the 9 that the opposition were also made up of solo queuers, my teammates were AFK for the whole thing, so they may as well have been pre-formed. Now, while this didn't dent my progress, or prevent me from eventually progressing to 7 wins, 9 games on the trot of getting destroyed and abandoned is incredibly disheartening. These weren't losses because the other team outplayed us. These were losses simply for being outnumbered and outcommunicated. It felt worse after having those 4 close games prior to this long-term decimation. It went from a thrilling experience to a damn chore to get through, very similar to the trials of old. As mentioned earlier, once you hit 7 wins, you start to get end-of-game drops. But I've only got 1 so far, because I couldn't bring myself to play Destiny again before the weekly reset after experiencing trials this weekend. The system is lopsided right now, and for every good experience that you may hear about from the big guys like Kakis, Dado, Mylin, True Vanguard or Giggs & Co., there will be many more who've experienced the same as I. A demoralising and player-breaking experience, driving them completely from the game, who don't get heard or get pushed to the bottom of the feedback. This scenario for people like me is fully a system and design-based one. Every single player of Trials is in the same matchmaking pool, regardless of if you are solo, duo or triple stack queuing. Now on the one hand, I do get it. The purpose of the matchmaking and the other changes to the mode were to boost the population so that there's more available games and game variety. But if that's the case, then there needs to be additional systems in place for the matchmaking to protect solos and duos and prevent 5-0 blowouts in 3 minutes or less that I've been witnessing back to back to back to back, and even people who play this game for a job like Paul Tassai have encountered as well. Now I'm not arrogant enough to think that I can armchair develop. I don't know how to do what Bungie do, but I have ideas as a player that maybe they can build off if they hear them. I know it's a hot topic with the top 1% of PvP in Destiny every time it's brought up, but there is the other 99% to consider here too. For me, the biggest thing to come out of that first weekend of the Trials revamp was that skill-based matchmaking is required in Trials now. The thing is, it needs to be a bespoke system unlike what we've seen before. The reason I say this is that we don't want to split up the population with a pre-made and freelance playlist, as the pre-made one would just end up as the same toxic underpopulated cesspit that it once was, but as a community, we can't have it where there's no chance of winning, no fun and no incentive to play for solo players, because if it does stay as it stands right now, solo players will abandon the game mode and it will once again become the same toxic, underpopulated cesspit that it once was. Now I don't know how hard a system of the like that I'm going to describe here is to build and implement, or if it's even possible. But this would be an idea of a possible scenario that would help solo players and pre-made teams, at least as things are right now and from where I currently stand. Matchmaking needs to be able to differentiate if a match-made team will face a pre-made one. If that's the case, the match-made team should be of a higher individual skill level than those in the pre-made team, as this will allow for tighter matches. Granted, this would likely increase queue times, but to obtain tighter and more engaging games, and keep the population up, that feels like a small price to pay for the longevity of the game mode. It's just one idea, quickly scribbled down, that could keep the population up, but keep matches close and interesting, and therefore keep people playing. It's not a perfect or fully fleshed out idea, but it is the beginnings of one. Okay, so the game mode is still a bit demoralising, but Bungie are already working on certain things highlighted this weekend to improve the mode, including lockouts for players abandoning a match. So there is scope for Trials to improve even further over the course of the season. But what about loot? Let's be honest, that's what we all play this game for. Loot has actually been quite plentiful within my time in Trials of Osiris. Through my 18 or 19 games, I've got a full set of armour, a weapon in each slot, and some pretty good rolls to boot. Whilst I do like the amount of loot that I've gotten, it doesn't feel brilliant obtaining it right now. Most of this loot, especially most of the armor set, has come from ranking up with Saint 14. Now, like Crucible, Vanguard and Gambit, you can reset your progress with Saint once you've maxed out, and then you go through the process once again, unlocking new engrams and rewards upon each minor and major faction rank up. And like the others, this happens in the background from just playing. But that means that most of the rewards in this mode have come from a background system. Whilst plentiful, having to travel to another location to obtain them removes the rewarding nature from the game mode itself. As we have spoken about, end of game drops do occur after 7 wins, but I was done with the mode at that point. I was fed up with the grind and the disheartening matches, and didn't even want to play Destiny due to my experience, let alone further matches of Trials. Okay, my Trials record last weekend was a 37% win ratio, but that was to get 7 wins, at which point I just couldn't face more of the grind. So yes, there are plentiful rewards, but for me, the way in which they drop doesn't prompt me to want to keep playing, as it's just something from a vendor back in the tower, which I then have to infuse up to use anyway. These changes, they are steps in the right direction. Previously, I'd have never got 1 game in, let alone 19 over a weekend. Just that point on its own should have these changes hailed as a massive success. But this road is long, and getting people through the door is less than half of the battle here, because you then need to keep them inside and keep them entertained. In a PvP scenario, that is achieved through appropriate matchmaking and rewards. I don't want to keep jumping out of the mode because I'm matching against 3 stacks, or because I may get a better weapon to help me fight back at the tower. As I've already said, I don't know how hard some of these changes would be to implement. I mean, it's taken nearly 7 years to get to the point that we're at now. Bungie have shown a willing and ability to change things quickly with more recent releases, so we may see adjustments through the course of a season, or at the start of each season. Either one would be a lot better than what we've had previously. As things stand at this precise moment, I don't think Trials is a mainstay for me, at least with how things are, as I would more often than not feel like I'm letting my team down. But if I'm looking for the extra pinnacle rewards, Trials is no longer an instant no, and if I do happen to have a weekend where my friends are online, heck, we may even give it a shot at Flawless. There are many positives to take from these changes, and they have made the mode much more accessible to many more people. Additional changes over time may make it one of the best modes in the entire game, but we're going to have to wait until they're implemented to find that out. For now, steps in the right direction is a huge win for Bungie, Destiny, and the community, but the team can't let up and say that this is enough, because it isn't yet. And as long as the community are kept informed that further changes are incoming, we're going to be happy with the current state for quite a while. It's a massive improvement overall that just requires a few tweaks to start elevating it higher. I now look forward to future updates to the mode and what it can bring for me, a predominantly solo player. But for now, at least I can access it and give it a crack. I would like to thank you all very much for tuning in. I am not a big PvP guy. You won't see many PvP videos on this channel. So the fact that I got enough games in to form a decision upon the mode, and the fact that it kept me playing to get to those 7 wins, speaks volumes to the changes that have been implemented by Bungie this season. I hope we see more of it, I really do. But for now, I think the changes that we have received are really quite positive. In the meantime, guys, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button. You can also hit the bell next to subscribe for notifications of when new content goes live. Comment down below with your thoughts on this first weekend of the Trials revamp and what you've thought about the changes, whether they've been positive, negative, whatever the case may be. You can also share the video around, tweet it at the developers if it's an idea that you think should be implemented or should be given more voice. Otherwise, your viewership is more than enough for me, guys. So my name is Doragon, these are my thoughts on the Season 15 Trials of Osiris revamps, and until next time, guys, I hope you all have yourselves a fantastic day, and take care.